Welcome back to another show. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. You are now joining us on a brand new podcast. Minds in 2A. Yes, sir. Right now, I'm getting ready to pull up some things that sparked my interest for today's show.
Two mass shootings
Let's
on
get it.
a military base
Military.
stateside
Man.
in 1 week. And what will the DOD do about it? Well, I'll tell you what they planned on talking about 2 weeks before this happened.
Exactly.
Let's see if it goes into effect now. Here on the next episode of Guns and Guidance.
Amen. Keep it this way all other stuff.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your source for Second Amendment news. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. This is where you're going to see all of the Second Amendment news, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, right here on this channel before anywhere else.
Yep.
So let's talk about what happened here in the U.S.
What
We've
happened?
had two shootings on military bases, both naval bases.
And this is
One was
amazing.
even a Saudi foreign national who had a gun on a military base. Military bases are gun-free zones.
Right.
Criminals love gun-free zones. The president, when he was campaigning, even said on day one, I'm going to get rid of gun-free zones on military bases. Hasn't played out. However, that might be changing shortly. 3 weeks ago, the Department of Defense released a directive entitled Arming and the Use of Force. I'll have a link to it in the description. But what they're doing is they're allowing each commanding officer of the base A, whatever it is, to allow soldiers to carry their own guns on their own time for personal protection. There's a bunch of hoops they have to jump through, and it even says that each person who is applying for this ability to carry their own weapon during their own time has to accept that they could be liable for any damage or loss of life at their hands. But there's finally a directive made by the Pentagon that will allow members of the military on a base here in the U.S. to protect themselves. Finally, we already know there's been a couple of shootings on bases, not just the two that happened last week. There's been a couple by military members, by foreign nationals, and by contractors. But in each and every case, they all could have been shut down a hell of a lot faster.
Shut down.
There are more good guys with guns in the area. And how much more of a good guy with a gun could you be than the guys who we trust with the guns to protect freedom? It makes no sense to me why the guys and gals on the base don't get to carry. What makes it worse is Elizabeth Warren, the day that the first shooting happened last week, has already come out and said, we need gun control. Even our military members aren't safe from gun violence. So a quick rundown, like I said, I'll have a link in the description of this directive, but commanders over above may grant permission to DOD personnel requesting to carry a privately owned firearm, concealed or open carry, on DOD property for a personal protection purpose not related to the performance of an official duty or status. Applicants must be 21 years or older, and they will have to show proof of compliance that may include a concealed handgun license that is valid under federal, state, local, or host nation law where the DOD property is located. So that's
all right. Better go to Virginia.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Chad here with Iraq Veteran 8888.
Yep.
Today, we're going to give you guys a bit of an update on the stuff going on in Virginia. And guys, it's looking pretty bad. So buckle in, stick with us on this. We really want to make sure that our viewers are informed of what's going on.
Yes.
And it involves SB 16 and SB 64. Two extremely tyrannical bills that are getting pushed through in Virginia. And right now, it's a Democrat-controlled House, Senate, governorship. Everything is pretty much we've got Democrats at the wheel in Virginia. Now, there's some more far-reaching things that we need to discuss in this video that I feel are implications to this entire thing, like sort of the cause and effect to why it happened, that I feel are really important to mention. But also, people need to understand just how dangerous this really is that's going on. I mean, this is a far-reaching set of legislation that basically aims to make every Virginian, every Virginian a felon overnight. And that's some serious stuff we're talking about. 5 years in prison, gun rights. Very, very serious stuff. I mean, not something to be taken lightly. And it's going up for a vote in January. Now, I know right now we're here at the beginning of December, and it's still early to speculate.
We need more people in the House.
Theorized.
We need more people in the House.
Be swept on through and brushed right on through.
We just got a new.
Okay, we know that because
we just got a new person that was a Democrat.
And
we're in the House Judiciary Committee from Jersey City.
So
it's funny, right after the shooting, he decides to do it. In my eyes, he did it because it's obvious. It's a distraction.
The NRA spent about $300,000. So all this lobbying and all this money, it's all about money.
Yeah, anti-Semites
spend all this money.
And they black.
Try to get these people.
They black.
And the whole idea is, all right, we're going to donate this money to put you in office.
Jewish.
When you get in office, you're going to do something. Right? That's the whole idea. Whether anybody will
we need to focus on impeachment.
That's what all this is just political favoritism, right? If I spend my money on you, well, then when you get in office, you're going to owe me a favor.
Talking about that.
That's exactly what
happened. Bond that they had that nobody wants to talk about.
To get these Democrats in office at the tune of what, 15, 16 seats?
He cares about the city more than he does.
House, Senate, governor. We got you, right? And of course,
you see a big plume cloud go up in the city.
This is really Bloomberg and his wishes and every town gun state.
What happens? People when you come running to us,
and that's the issue. So there is no electoral college at a state level. It's pretty much popular vote, right? No matter where those votes come from, if you possess a popular vote, then you win the election. It doesn't take into account all of the counties that don't want to put up with your bullcrap.
Exactly.
And it's not based on population densities.
Nope.
The way electoral college works at the federal level, let's just say, obviously, when we have a presidential election, you hear the Democrats complain about electoral college. The reason they complain about it is because they run all the giant population centers, primarily Democrat. When you look at a map, right, of where all of the, which places are red and which places are blue, most of the blue counties and jurisdictions are in the large cities.
Right.
And then all of the outside areas are red, right? We're all red-blooded folks just trying to live life and do our thing and live free. And then when you get into large population centers, they go blue.
They go blue.
Right. It's confusing. I understand
the large,
I can't wrap my mind around it no matter how I look at it. But that's just
end up blue.
And unfortunately, a lot of those cities also have a heck of a lot of people. So if the large cities, here's the danger of these state level elections when it comes to the lack of an electoral college.
Right.
When you make something strictly just a, popularity contest, well, then what happens is all the people in the city can just go, well, there's a lot of us and there's not a lot of you. All right. Well, we want gun control, even though we know the vast majority of people don't want it, just because there's a lot of us in one area that we get the ability to tell you all what time it is.
Exactly.
And that's what happened in Virginia. Folks sat on their hands.
I didn't get my glasses.
Okay, and they assumed that it would never happen in Virginia. Oh, that would never happen in Virginia. This is Virginia, right? The state flag has a picture of a guy stepping on a dead tyrant's neck with a crown knocked off his head. I mean, come on.
Amazing.
It's the state of Virginia.
Right.
We're talking Virginia.
It's Virginia.
Oh my gosh. So I really wanted to take just a moment to discuss the ins and outs of how this happened. And we let it happen. It slipped right under our noses.
From the plantation.
And I believe that it's a giant power play by Bloomberg.
A family comes
just
from
to touch the NRA right, because it's right in the NRA's backyard. What better way
from sharpshooters and rifle clubs
than to have this happen in the backyard? What does that say about the prowess of their organization?
No matter what you might think about the NRA, they are right there in Fairfax, Virginia. So it was
exactly
the organization that represents gun owners, and I put that in quotes. Okay, I say they do.
Right.
The NRA is what's in the media all the time. GOA is in the media a lot, but the NRA is what every anti-gunner thinks is like the enemy. Okay, but it was definitely
The opposition.
About, the tyranny
Well,
coming to Virginia in a previous
the
video.
opposition.
But the text of the bills is out now, and the one that really concerns me the most is the Senate Bill 64 about paramilitary activity. This is nuts.
I want to mention something.
Saying,
so this Senate Bill 64 that he's discussing,
zero militias.
Some areas of this bill have actually been a part of Virginia law since like the 70s already. Okay,
right.
So this is an amendment, from what I understand, to an existing piece of legislation. Now, I think it's one of those sort of
they're trying to reinforce the same
kind of back alley things that maybe there were some things that are on the books that aren't enforced anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, for instance, here in Georgia, back when the Civil War was going on, after the Civil War, Georgia passed a law that said that you could not have more than, I think it was 3 males in sharing each other's company after a certain time of the evening. There was rules against too many men getting together and talking, right? And I believe the law is still on the books. But of course, no one enforces it because that's just dumb, right? It's been so long ago, that's just not a thing anymore. But after the war, they were worried that Confederate soldiers would get back together and form pockets of resistance. And they wanted to make a law that would say, hey, y'all need to break that up because y'all might, get together in a tavern, have some drinks, and decide to take the head on again. So that's what they were concerned about. So I think this bill that they're talking about, 1987. So it's not a new bill, but I believe it's one of those things that has not been enforced. It's one of those unwritten things that they don't really worry about. Right. But now that the Democrats are in power, what they're trying to say is, hey, we know this exists, and we're going to enforce it. At least that's what they want you to think. So I'm trying to continue.
So they're amending this section, okay, 18-2, 433.2 of the Code of Virginia is amended and reenacted as follows: paramilitary activity prohibited, and then the penalty. A person, right, they scratched out shall be, and they replaced it with is guilty. A person is guilty of unlawful paramilitary activity, punishable as a Class 5 felony if he teaches or demonstrates to any person or any other person the use, application, or making of any firearm, explosive, or incendiary device or technique capable of causing injury or death to persons.
That doesn't make sense. I can't be a trainer?
Or
What?
That such
I can't train?
Or use in or furtherance of a civil disorder.
Right. So what they're trying to say is, if you train somebody on, or if you show somebody how to make something, or train somebody in the name of civil disobedience, which I mean is what it is, they're saying that all right, now you're committing a felony. Well, okay. So say that you're a trainer and you just give classes, right? Well,
right.
You don't know why the people taking your class are taking the class, right? I mean, that's not fair.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm going to use someone like, I don't know, James Yeager, for instance. So if you want to go up and take a James Yeager class, it's not like Yeager said, makes you fill out a form saying, you're not going to do nothing bad with this training. I mean,
I'm doing it now.
So I can see that if this thing does go through, a lot of trainers in Virginia, they're probably just going to have some bullcrap memo you fill out.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, and says, I will not use this training to blah, 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 blah. And
right.
This is stupid legal bullcrap.
Dumb disclaimer.
It's still very troubling.
Just to keep your ass out of the water.
Civil disorder. Okay, so we're learning how to use firearms. Okay, I'm teaching my child how to use firearms. I'm teaching them the true meaning of the Second Amendment. That it's not about hunting, right? It's about fighting back evil and tyrannical governments, such as what is happening in Virginia. So if you're teaching your child how to use a firearm for the true purpose of what the Second Amendment stands for, are you furthering civil disorder at that point? Because at this point you are guilty.
The very nature of the Second Amendment is civil disorder. So that's really where the hang-up is with this. I mean, the Second Amendment is a constitutionally protected right. Like, it's in our Constitution. That's what I understand. Like, any law that is repugnant to the Constitution is not a law. It's null and void. I mean, there's been court cases already, Supreme Court cases that have occurred where they've said that it's citizens' duty to resist unconstitutional laws. There is the
Right.
law, and there's something that acts under what's called the color of law. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but the color of law is the equivalent of somebody saying red flag laws. All right, that's the color of law because you're being stripped of due process. Take the guns first, and then we'll worry about due process later. No, that's not how it works. You can't take someone's property away without due process. Okay, so any law that says anybody can write something down on a piece of paper and say this is the law.
Right.
But enforcing that law, you're only acting under the color of law, not the constitutionality of law, not the law of the land.
All right. Now,
That's the issue here.
one other thing that they've added to this section of Virginia Code is
Better pay
30.
attention to the
All
law
right?
of the land.
So, person is guilty of unlawful paramilitary activity.
I tell
If
you what.
they assemble with one or more persons with the intent of intimidating any person or group of persons by drilling, parading, or marching with any firearm, any explosive or incendiary device, or components or combination.
And even march.
All right, so
And they put that in
And
bold
march with your guns.
well, this is
Forget about
being changed.
You
Okay,
march
this
with
is
your guns.
amendments to
We
this
gonna
section
have
of
something
code.
more.
Now,
That's basically.
what I gather from this, all right, you're not happy.
You can't have an armed rally.
You can't have
Right,
a
no armed rallies.
The Capitol building
No Second Amendment audits.
strung across your back
As
as
they
a show
call
of force against some tyrannical law that might be coming down the
No
pipeline.
Black
Otherwise,
Panthers
guess what?
parades.
You'll all be guilty
Guns
of
up.
classified
And the
Shut
wording
that shit
is so ambiguous that they can, of course, say, "Oh, we felt threat," even if there was no threat that existed.
Oh,
You have to
AIs
remember, it
at
has to
Chick-fil-A.
say, with the intent of intimidating any person. So all they have to say is, "Oh, we felt intimidated," and all of a sudden you're all felons.
You know, we don't have guns and you do.
Right.
Well,
Because the Second Amendment is what it is, right? I mean, you have the right to peacefully assemble, armed, if you want. That's
So-
part of it.
that's the stupid crap with 64. Now 16 is your kind of general purpose. All right, assault weapons ban, all that kind of happy stuff. Okay,
Let's
but
go over some of the high and the low points.
yeah, some of the low points. So one of the big things that they were mentioning was gun confiscation, but I've read the bill and I can't find anything about, permanent gun confiscation, but there's nothing against it. There's nothing in there about grandfathering in certain assault firearms.
It is an ambiguous wording that acts under the color of law that can be taken. All right, this can be interpreted in a way that because there's no grandfather clause, you have to assume that it either can lead to confiscation of some sort with no grandfather clause in place. Now, the thing about like the 94 crime bill, okay, it had a sunset clause. So that at least tells you, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to gather the data. And if you think about it, as much as I disagree with the crime bill, of course, I hate it. It's bullcrap and it's a stain on our history. But with the crime bill, at least there was a bit of light at the end of the tunnel to where they could go. And I can guarantee you the Democrats to this day hate that it had a sunset clause.
It's a hoax.
Now you can
A
look at that
100% hoax.
this was a bullcrap idea. It's a complete waste of time and taxpayer money. And it's a textbook example. Why would you never do it again, right? So we have that to show for it, even though we had to give up 10 years of liberty. Remember, Dr. Martin Luther King said, a right delayed is a right denied.
Dang,
And that's
a
not
right
a civil
delayed
rights thing. Rights
is
are
a right
rights.
denied.
All rights
A
are
right.
civil rights.
All right.
2A, being a firearms owner is a civil right. It is a right. Self-preservation,
Peace up.
self-defense, protecting your family.
Down.
Those are all things that all people can embrace, no matter where they are, what walk of life they come from. It don't matter where you live, what color you are, what religion you are. The 2A affects everybody.
2A.
Okay, it is a civil right.
Guns and 2A, baby. Welcome to the show.
To quote Martin Luther King, because that's for those people that lived under crime bill in '94 for 10 freaking years.
Amazing.
They were denied their rights for that time.
10 years.
So there's a couple things in here. One section is about carrying loaded shotguns in public. All right, so
it's a shotgun.
Shotgun with a magazine that holds more than 7 rounds and the longest ammunition was chambered. You can't carry it in certain public areas, and they've pretty much just made that a blanket statement. Okay, except for law enforcement officers, licensed security guards, military personnel, all that kind of happy stuff.
Right.
So,
that kind of happy stuff.
The jack boots that are going to enforce it, we have to make sure they're covered.
All right,
we're good. We can kill you. We got to make sure y'all niggas can't kill
you. So this is one thing here.
And guys, you need to read it. There's a lot of verbiage in this.
So
we
there's-
can't cover in this
All
video.
right, we'll get to what
See,
qualifies as an
nice.
assault firearm in a moment, but there's a backdoor registration scheme in here where if you go to purchase a firearm, what I'm gathering is that you will have to submit a background check to the state police on a state level. Okay, currently you go and buy a firearm at a dealer, you fill out 4473. Your personal information gets on there, you fill the form out, you do a background check or whatever. If you have a carry permit, it doesn't go through, whatever. Okay. This, you have to submit more paperwork to the state, and then they will approve or disapprove you, and then they will maintain your records for 12 months.
Of course they will. Oh, I guarantee it'll be more than 12 months. They've got a special filing cabinet for that. I guarantee you it ain't ever going to get thrown away.
4473s have to be maintained as well, but this is the information that you have to. Kind of a sad state of affairs.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Well, any company can make a limit, and we certainly don't want to make it sound like, oh,
They
well, if it's
don't
older,
make 'em
it's
like it.
automatically awesome. That's not the case. You know,
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I will be right back. This is us tuning in for yours truly, Guns and 2A.